the thing that impacts me the most is flavor and taste and smells. So, like you mentioned before, there are a few things that you're gonna eat with me right now. So just a little background about the restaurant. We're located out, I'm, as you can tell, not from Denmark. My wife is Danish. And I own a restaurant way out in Rafshaløen, an old shipyard that closed down in '96. We opened 4 years ago. And we have our own garden that looks out into the harbor, and it's a very beautiful place that I really, really am passionate about. About 3 years ago, we started this mission of really thinking about the byproducts that we're creating from this restaurant. And the topic of this discussion is there's no such thing as a byproduct, only another product. So I'm just gonna draw your attention to what is in front of you. There's 3 small cups and some chips on the side. We have really been exploring, so basically the process goes down like this at the restaurant. We come up with the dish, we lay all the byproducts out in front of us from this dish, and no one leaves until we've decided what we're gonna do with everything that normally would be discarded. And through fermentations, through salting, through preservation, we're able to achieve some pretty cool things. So if you look to your left, the small cup here, this is what we call an egg white garum. So I'm gonna start to give you some numbers. So we use about 60 eggs a week. And we cook the eggs at 63 degrees Celsius in the shell for about 2 hours. I would say 90% of restaurants in this city and around the world do this same technique to cook eggs. In this process, generally what happens is that you crack the egg, you wipe away the egg whites, and you preserve the yolk, because the proteins in a yolk cook at a different temperature than the whites. So we save all these whites that account for approximately 900 grams per day of these egg whites. And what we found out that only 12% of the proteins in these whites actually cook. So overnight, we strain out what's left of the raw egg. We save the solids. The raw egg, we reserve. The solids we take and we treat as soy sauce, the same process. So we take a starch, barley, grow koji on it, blend it with the raw egg whites in a 10% salt solution, and you have this. So now we're all gonna taste this, and I'm gonna taste it just so you know it's safe. So. This is considered a soy sauce, so it is quite salty. This is used as a seasoning agent, so definitely don't shoot the whole thing, or you won't be able to taste anything else for the rest of the day. I would just take a little drink of it. Now, that is a seasoning agent that we use in lots of, we cure egg yolks with it, we do different things in it. As it gets older, the depth increases. Now, I talked about the raw egg whites. We take this raw egg whites that we've strained out, we make our meringue for it for one of our desserts. And this is at the far end right here. And I burned it because I'm American and I like s'mores. So, so this is egg whites that are reserved for 3 years we've been throwing these out. We just learned about this recently. At 3 o'clock in the morning on my smartphone. So this is egg whites that generally are thrown out. We mix it with green strawberry vinegar that's left over after we pickle green strawberries, and we make a meringue out of it. Or a marshmallow, if you will. So in all, through this process, by the end of the year, we've saved 200 kilos of usable egg whites, and we've saved about 108 kilos of cooked egg whites. And these cooked egg whites we make into a garum, and we're also making, which is not ready yet, we're also making mozzarella, if you will. So we take the cooked egg whites, we salt them and hang them for 2 weeks, and you get the texture of mozzarella, but it's just made out of egg whites, so no dairy. While we're on the subject of cheese, in the center here, this is a almond ricotta. So when we make almond milk, we squeeze out the milk. We're left with the pulp of the almonds, and we blend this in a blender with water, xanthan gum, vinegar, and salt. And you produce something that tastes exactly like a ricotta cheese, but had this amaretto flavor to it. And again, completely dairy-free. All the chips here are based on all the food waste that we produce in the kitchen. So it's all the different trim. We have carrots seasoned with coffee grinds, cauliflower with dried juniper, and all of our leftover potato bread that we season with black pepper and dried yogurt. This is the first thing you get on the table at the restaurant. So it kind of starts the philosophy of the restaurant right off the bat. So now that you've tasted everything, kind of go into where we want to go with this. So right now, it's my more or less coming up with different things to do with the byproducts has become a sport in the kitchen amongst the chefs. Everyone's trying to come up with the next cool thing. And what this does is really, the most important part about working like this is to create a culture around this way of thinking. Because if I can preach and I can tell everyone this is how you should do it in the kitchen, but unless they actually really buy into it, they're just going to think I'm some hippie coming in saying do this, do that, and don't throw anything away and save everything. So the culture for me has been the most difficult thing to create, but the most satisfying as well. And you know, there's been so many times where the chefs question me. They say, okay, why are we doing this? And I say to them, I just give them numbers like this. You know what 200 kilos of something looks like. And it's really interesting for me to talk about this in this kind of, I remember last year when I talked at this summit, and the 3 people that went before me talked in millions of tons and kilos, and then I got up and I'm like, oh yeah, we produce 10 kilos of this and we do this with it. And it felt very daunting, but in retrospective, looking back, I was kind of happy that it went in that direction, because we have to start somewhere. And this is what we're trying to do now. And everything that we're doing now, we're doing on it's like I'm butchering mackerel and doing this on the side. Kim, who's kind of my creative sparring partner, he's butchering beef and doing it on the side. We don't have a format or a kitchen where we can focus on this. So our next step in this, because we really want to get this information out, is we are hopefully by spring, early spring of next year, we're building a research kitchen dedicated just to researching food waste. And through this research, we're going to make an open sourced network, because we want to share everything we learn, and we want people to also share with us what they've learned as well. And it's something I'm really excited about, because like I said, we're just scratching the surface right now. And to put it into a format where we can maybe scale it. And I mean, when I talk about the almond ricotta, this is the first thing that comes to mind. I'm from California. Obviously, there's a big problem with water in California right now, and a majority of that water is being eaten up by the production of almonds. And the amount of almond pulp that's probably produced for making almond milk from California is massive. And for us to be able to harness that byproduct and turn it into something that not only is not going into the bin, but is something that is actually helping people that can't have dairy. They can have ricotta cheese now. We had a lady that said she was having an allergic reaction 2 months ago because we fed her this, and she couldn't understand why it was like this, and we called it ricotta, and psychologically she was freaking out. She's like, I can't breathe. I'm like, there's absolutely no dairy in it at all. She went outside, had a glass of water, took some antihistamine, she was fine afterwards. But that's the kind of impact we're looking for. We're looking for, not to make anybody sick, but obviously to really to create a product that can create an experience for someone that they haven't had before. But the most important thing for us when doing this is that we never do anything just to do it. Deliciousness is the most important factor of this, because you're not going to convince anybody of what you're doing unless you produce a superior product. And it's how we're operating the restaurant right now. And there's no discussion of Michelin stars or the top 50 list and all this stuff. For us right now, our focus is to produce a product at the restaurant, an experience at the restaurant that is top tier, because all the stuff we're doing behind it, working like this, we've cut the amount of waste going to the landfill by 75% since we've opened at the restaurant in 4 years. But we're not, like I said, we're not going to convince anybody of what we're doing unless we are producing a product that can stand up to the people that aren't doing this, and kind of working not as responsible as you should, as most of the restaurant industry is working right now. So through this test kitchen, when we have a solid foundation to build on right now, what we've created so far, but the end goal for this is to do seminars, do classes, and invite other chefs to come kind of into our world and how we're thinking. Because, we were just talking about, I worked for Thomas Keller for a long time, and impact is one of the most important things you can have on the people around you, the industry that you're in. So it's this word we're constantly using amongst ourselves, impact. So today is not about really showing you a technique or a product. Today is about, and trying to sell that to you guys, but today is about trying to sell you guys on a way of thinking and a mindset that it's not only affects the restaurant industry, but this mindset could affect industries in general around the world. That's it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Very good.